Hi friends, welcome to Interactive Medicine. In this section, we are continuing our Top 1 series and we have the part 3 of drug poison. We can get into a question of 2014. They asked the question that they were asked a question that a 55-year-old male had been delivered to resuscitation unit with unconscious and relatives reported to have mistakenly drunk an alcoholic solution of unknown origin. So, on examination, the patient was diagnosed with methanol intoxication. So, antidote for methanol intoxication is ethanol or fomepizole. Methanol poison can be treated with fomepizole or, if unavailable, ethanol. Both drugs act to reduce the action of alcohol dehydrogenase on methanol by means of competitive inhibition. How methanol is become an intoxicant to our body? So here is our mechanism. The methanol is converted into formic acid. Formic acid is very dangerous to our body. It is done by the help of enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase. Here is alcohol dehydrogenase. So fomepizole or ethanol can inhibit this alcohol dehydrogenase, so it can block this pathway. Teturamam is also known as disulfiram. It inhibits LDH. LDH means acetaldehyde dehydrogenase. Sorry, aldehyde dehydrogenase. Ethanol is converted to acetaldehyde and it become acetates. So the disulfiram drug which can inhibit the ADLH, also known as aldehyde dehydrogenase, also in the liver and brain, it oxidizes the acetaldehyde byproduct into acetic acid. Disulfiram blocks this oxidation by inhibit ALDH, causing a rapid rise of acetaldehyde in blood when alcohol is consumed. Our next option was acetylcysteine, is also known as N-acetylcysteine, is the medication that used to treat paracetamol overdose. Acetylcysteine is used for paracetamol or acetaminophen overdose, and to loosen thick mucus in individual with cystic fibrosis or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It can be taken intravenously by mouth or inhaled as a mist. In 2014, they asked the question about an 8-week pregnant woman with acute respiratory disease and temperature rise up to 39.9 degrees Celsius. So has called in a doctor. The doctor insisted on her avoiding taking paracetamol because in this period of pregnancy there is a risk of its teratogenicity. So if paracetamol overdose happen, we will need to administer acetylcysteine. So in pregnancy, don't take paracetamol because it causes teratogenicity. Teratogenic drugs is a teratogen is an agent that can disturb the development of embryo or fetus. Teratogens halt the pregnancy or produce a congenital malformation of a congenital malformation. Classes of teratogens include radiation, maternal infections, chemicals, and drugs. Toxic effects on the embryo or a substance. The next one is embryotoxicity. Embryotoxicity means toxic effects on the embryo of a substance that crosses the placental barrier. Fetotoxicity means adverse fetal effects due to toxin entering the maternal circulation and crossing the placental barrier. which may comprises maternal health and appears as fetal malformation, altered growth, and in utero death. Hepatotoxicity, the capacity of a drug, chemical, or other exposure to produce injury to the liver. Agents with recognized hepatotoxicity include carbon tetrachloride, alcohol, dantrolene sodium, valproic acid, isonicotinic acid, hydrazide, and finally allergenicity. First, we need to understand what is meant by allergen. Allergen is a substance or a protein or non-protein which is capable of inducing allergy or specific hypersensitivity. Allergenicity, allergenicity, allergenicity is means allergenicity means the state of being allergy, or we can say that the allergen, the state at which the allergen cause the allergy. A 63-year-old male patient with bladder atony had been prescribed a medication which he had been arbitrarily taking at a higher dose. The patient developed hyperhydration, salivation, diarrhea, and muscle spasm. The prescribed drug relates to following group. It is cholinomimetics. How you understand this one? Hyperhydration, which means hyperhydration means the glands secrete more secretions, and also uh, um, the tissues which have enough water, and salivation, the salivary glands produce enough saliva. Diarrhea, the channels are very active, the channels in the cells, the sodium chloride channels are very active. The muscle spasm, the smooth muscles are contracted. These are effects of parasympathetic effect. So cholinomimetics drugs can induce these effects. We already thought the bladder atony means uh, we already said that the urinary bladder is contracted by smooth muscle. So bladder atony, where the urinary bladder is not enoughly contracted. So we need to administer some cholinomimetics. For an example, neostigmine. We need to administer some drugs. So it is the solution for bladder atony. It will help to contract the urinary bladder, but if it is being a higher dose, it will lead to hyperhydration, salivation, diarrhea, muscle spasms, and decreased heart rate, decreased respiratory rate. Okay, this is where the action of cholinomimetics. Cholinesterase reactivators. Organophosphate poisoning. Inhibition of cholinesterase reactivated by pralidoxime. It is a cholinesterase reactivator. We already said that acetylcholine can be destroyed by cholinesterase enzyme into cholinate acetate. So uh, some organic phosphates organic phosphate can block the cholinesterase. These organophosphates are used in farms agriculture as an insecticide, so it can inhibit cholinesterase. These are organophosphate poisoning are more seen in farmers, so we need to reactivate the cholinesterase by using the drug pralidoxine drug or drugs which is end with oximes. Then tocolytics. Tocolytics also known as anti-contraction medications or labor suppressants. These are medications used to suppress premature labor. Example for tocolytics, beta mimetics, for example terbutaline, calcium channel blockers, for example nifedipine, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAID, uh, for example indomethacin. And since oxytocin, we already studied that oxytocin can induce the labor, or it helps in contraction of the uterus wall, so it aids in the parturition of baby. So uh, if a drug which can block the oxytocin, it also helps in the or suppress the premature labor. Since oxytocin induces contraction of a uterus wall, the inhibition of oxytocin or its action has been targeted in the management of preterm labor. Atosiban. Atosiban is a drug used in today. It is the only oxytocin receptor blocker that is available as a tocolytic. Then our other option was adrenergic receptor blocker. Adrenergic receptor blockers, we have alpha blockers, beta blockers, and alpha beta blockers. And non-selective alpha blocker, just study one name, phentolamine. Alpha 1, prasosine. Alpha 2 blocker, yohimbine. Beta blocker, non-selective, propranolol. Beta 1, atenolol. Beta 1 with a partial beta 2 agonist activity is butalol. Alpha and beta blocker, labetalol. Just study these terms at least. Example for ganglionic blockers: methonium, pentolinium, mecamilamine, trimetafen, tubocurarin, pempidine, benzohexonium, chlorosindamine. And in 2018, there was another question. A 60-year-old man diagnosed with chronic heart failure was brought to the hospital. After a long course of treatment, the patient developed the signs of intoxication like dyspnea, extrasystole, nausea, and disturbed perception of colors. The medicine who have these side effects are digoxin. Digoxin under the class of cardiac glycosides. So what happens? How What is the mechanism of action of digoxin? Digoxin increases the force of contraction of muscle of the heart by inhibiting the activity of enzyme ATPase. So just consider this is our cell. This is our heart cell. Okay, we have a transporter, potassium and sodium antitransport. The transporter name is sodium potassium ATPase. So if digitally is block this ATPase, what happens? We need to understand another transporter also, that is Na plus calcium plus exchanger. So when K plus is enter into a cell, similarly a sodium goes out from the cell. So digitalis block this transport. So calcium can't enter into the cell. So there is an increased sodium in this cell. Okay. So similarly, the calcium 2 plus also can't goes out from the cell because there is no sodium available in the extracellular matrix. So calcium can't goes out. So intracellular calcium 2 plus will increase, which also leads to increase the muscle with calcium binding. It leads to increase anatropy or force of contraction. The TNC means troponin C. Troponin C. TNC means troponin C. We studied that calcium is bound with troponin C, which leads to contraction of moose muscle. So digoxin decreases the sodium potassium ATPase pump. So increase intracellular calcium 2 plus, increase force of muscle. So in chronic heart failure, what happens? The heart can't pump the blood. The heart muscle is not enoughly work. So the efficiency of heart muscle is very weak in this condition in heart failure. So we need so in this condition we administer this drug digitalis, and it leads to increased calcium 2 plus inside the cell, which also leads to increased force of contraction. So but the fact that the problem with the digitalis is it has very narrow therapeutic index, very narrow therapeutic index. So we need to administer we need to in a particular specific dose, uh, larger than this dose or more. If we administer larger than this dose, it will may lead to death of the patient, or maybe shows the signs of intoxication symptoms. So it has very narrow therapeutic index. The another function of digoxin is, which is increase the vagal activity. Vagal activity means parasympathetic activity. So it will decrease the AV conduction. AV conduction means from the atria to ventricle, the impulse is transmitted through AV node and through AV node. So if the vagal activity is increased, parasympathetic system will increases. So the AV conduction will decrease, and the rate is decreased. Rate is decreased, but force is increased. So our next option was anaprylene, or also known as propranolol, is a non-selective beta blocker. It was established that anaprylene, the dose 40 milligram daily, which reduces the level of portal hypertension. It is used, anaprylene is used for portal hypertension, and increases the efficacy of treatment in liver cirrhosis associated with ascites and esophageal gastric bleeding. Okay, anaprylene used in portal hypertension, liver cirrhosis, esophageal gastric bleeding. Drotravir, it was another option. It is an antispasmodic drug. Antispasmodic drug. This it is used to enhance the cervical dilation uh, during childbirth. It is not for chronic heart failure. Drotravir is not for used in chronic heart failure. It is an antispasmodic drug. It enhances the cervical dilation. Uh, it is structurally related to papaverine. Which drug is papaverine? Which is a selective papaverine. It is very structurally related to papaverine, and it is a selective inhibitor of phosphodiesterase and has no anticholinergic effects. And the last option was furosemide, which is a loop diuretic, which will block Na plus K plus 2Cl pump, inhibit the luminal Na plus KCl transporter. If it is inhibited, more if it is inhibited, more water will accumulate here, along with the sodium, potassium, and chlorine. You know, if there is a sodium, and also remember there is an water also. So water will follows the sodium. Water will follow the sodium. Wherever sodium, we can understand there is also water. So this pump is inhibited, which means that more sodium inside, because this pump is inactivated by loop diuretic, for an example furosemide. So water through will urinate. So this drug is used at the condition where we have edema, we have body swellings with water or fluid. We need to eliminate this edema. So we use this diuretic furosemide, and which inhibit the luminous NaKCl transporter in the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle, and binding to the chloride transport channel, thus causing sodium chloride, potassium loss in urine. We can also, with the water, we can see sodium chloride and potassium loss in urine. Furosemide is used in treatment for edema. Also, edema is also furosemide can be used in edema due to chronic heart failure. It also used in chronic heart failure, but not for to increase the efficiency of heart. It is used to eliminate the edema due to chronic heart failure. Next question is asked. They asked this question is 2019, and a patient with inoperable lung cancer. So lung cancer accompanied by unbearable pain, very severe pain, and doctor prescribed an analgesic, a painkiller, and against the background of analgesic therapy, the patients developed the signs of intestinal obstruction. What analgesic could have this complication? It is the answer is morphine. So how we can conclude this one? Because we already said that morphine is have two functions. First one is it allows the potassium efflux, which means that cell undergo hyperpolarization or relaxed relaxation. So in muscle become relaxed, muscle cell become relaxed. So what happened? If muscle become relaxed, it leads to because the food is not going, the intestinal mobility will decrease. If muscle is relaxed, the intestinal mobility will decrease, so food is not going pass out from the intestine. So it eventually leads to the intestinal obstruction or constipation. Another its function is block the entry of calcium. We know calcium in muscle, if the intracellular calcium increases, it leads to binding with the troponin C and leads to muscle contraction. But if it inhibits calcium, it also leads to the relaxation of muscle. So intestinal motility will be decreased. So if also we use morphine in lung cancer as an analgesic. Papavertam. Papavertam used to relieve, papavertam or omnipod is used to relieve moderate to severe pain for pre-operative sedation. This papavertam is used only for operation, not for cancer. And it is also an opiate. Promodol or trimipridine is an opioid agonist. Same mechanism. Morphine, omnipod, promodol have same mechanism, and it is also used an analgesic for internal diseases, ulcer, cholecystitis, angina pectoris. And analgin or dipyrone or metamizole or nolotil, it's an NSAID, not an opioid. It is banned, and it is banned in UK and it is used for pre-operative pain and acute injury. A 31-year-old woman who for a long time treated for chronic polyarthritis complained of elevated blood pressure, changes in adipose tissue distribution, and disturbed menstrual cycle. What drugs this patient takes? Okay, here is the code word is menstrual cycle is maintained by steroid hormones. So if menstrual cycle is disturbed, which means that the patient get uh, more than enough amount of steroid from outside. So yeah, is there any steroid hormone we can see here? Yes, beclomethasone is a glucocorticoid, prednisolone is a glucocorticoid, and Sineflan is also a glucocorticoid. But how we can differentiate these drugs? So prednisolone is the answer, because prednisolone is used in chronic polyarthritis. Beclomethasone will not be used in polyarthritis. It is used to prevent and control symptoms of caused by asthma, wheezing, shortness of breath, etc. And fluocinolone acetate is also corticosteroid. Is used to variety of skin conditions, not with polyarthritis, eczema, dermatitis, allergy, rash, etc. And the action of mechanism of corticosteroid is, we know that from the post phospholipid, from the cell membrane phospholipid, they make arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid is 20 number carbon. Palmitic acid is 16 carbon, and stearic acid is 18 carbon fatty acid. And from acid, arachidonic acid, there's two pathways: lipoxygenase pathway and cyclooxygenase pathway. The final product of cyclooxygenase pathway is prostaglandins, and the final product of lipoxygenase is uh, inflammatory mediators, that is proteins and leukotrienes, etc. So steroid corticosteroids inhibit the conversion of phospholipid into arachidonic acid, and NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, inhibit the cyclooxygenase into prostaglandins. Okay, one of the option is phenylbutazone. Phenylbutazone is a NSAID, and it is a cyclooxygenase inhibitor used to potent pain relief, antipyretic, and anti-inflammatory. So another question is, a woman with a polyarticular rheumatoid arthritis prescribed a non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug, diclofenac sodium. So after some times, a concomitant disease exacerbated, and doctor is forced to stop these drugs. Why? What concomitant disease could necessitate consultation of this drug? It is ulcer disease, because just remember that um, uh, we administer NSAID for many cases, but if it is takes a long time, it will leads to ulcer disease. It can cause ulcer disease. They asked the question in 2019 and 17 also. Why? Because ulcers and NSAID, peptic ulcer disease, is well recognized complication of NSAID. Inhibition of cyclooxygenase 1 in the GIT tract leads to reduction of prostaglandin secretion and its cytoprotective effects in the gastromucosa. This therefore increases the susceptibility to mucosal injury, and it leads to ulcer. And in 2013, they asked the question: a 60-year-old male patient has a 9-year history of diabetes and takes insulin similar for the correction of hyperglycemia. 10 days ago, he began taking anaprylin for hypertension. 1 hour after administration of antihypertensive drug, the patient developed a hypoglycemic coma. What is the mechanism of hypoglycemia in this anaprylin use? So, anaprylin or propranolol is a non-selective beta blocker. So, uh, it can inhibit the glycogenolysis, because you know there's beta agonist. Beta agonism means adrenergic activity or sympathetic activity. In sympathetic activity, we need more glucose. Okay, so if we yeah, administer a drug which can inhibit the sympathetic system, which leads to decreased glucose. Glucose is formed from glycogen by the process of glycogenolysis. So a beta blocker can inhibit the glycogenolysis. So propranolol is a non-selective beta blocker. It leads to inhibition of glycogenolysis. Insulin also have insulin also inhibit glycogenolysis. Why we introduce insulin? Because the patient who have hyperglycemia, patient have hyperglycemia in diabetes mellitus. So we introduce insulin. So insulin also have glycogenolysis effect, and we administer a drug which also have the effect of glycogenolysis. So both effects simultaneously leads to hypoglycemic coma, because the sugar level become very low. So sugar is very much important for production of energy. So patient will undergo in hypoglycemic coma when a beta blocker administered with insulin. Next question is, they asked in 2012, a 65-year-old patient with chronic heart failure has been taking digitoxin in a self-administered dosage for a long time. She was admitted to the hospital for general health aggravation, arrhythmia, nausea, reduced diuresis, insomnia. What is the primary action to be taken? Don't give digitoxin if seen the poisoning symptoms. Detoxin is a cardiac glycoside which inhibits the Na plus NAK ATPase, sodium potassium ATPase. Don't give. Withhold the detoxin. And barbiturate poisoning. Bemegride, direct antagonism. Bemegride is the solution for barbiturate poisoning. And by direct antagonism. Direct antagonism is competitive inhibition, which means that compete for same receptors. Bemegride and barbiturate is compete for same receptors. And another question is, they asked in 2010, a patient with chronic cardiac insufficiency been taking Fosglo. Fosglo is a plant which have the same effect like digitoxin. Foxglove preparation for a long time. Due to violation of intake schedule, the woman got the symptoms of intoxication. These symptoms result from material accumulation. Material accumulation means accumulation of foxglove preparations. It leads to the intoxication. Tachyphylaxis. Tachyphylaxis is a medical term describing an acute, sudden decreasing response to a drug after its administration. That is a rapid and short-term onset of drug tolerance. It can occur after an initial dose or after a series of small doses. Increasing the dose of the drug may be able to restore the original response. For an example, when we for an example for a person who have allergy like sneezing, we introduced antihistamine drugs, but after some times antihistamine drugs, maybe nasal spray. After sometimes our receptors are not response to this drug because of that receptors are not available as free. So we need to introduce more dosage to make the receptor to respond to this drug. Idiosyncrasy, an adverse reaction that does not occur in most patients and treated with a drug and does not involve the therapeutic of the drug, which means that if a drug is if a drug administered to a patient and he he has some adverse effect of these drugs, but most of the patients, most of the persons who are administering this drug who are not getting this adverse effect. This is idiosyncrasy. So idiosyncrasy is an abnormal reactivity to a chemical that is particular to a given individual. Then finally, the sensibilization is the process of organism sensitivity to increase a medicine. It is a process of organism's sensitivity increase to a medicine. So guys, we are completing this section on drug poisoning. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in comment box. Okay guys, have a nice day. Thank you. Also, not forget to subscribe this channel and like and make a thumbs up.